Rich, always great to see you, man.
Hey, good to be here.
How you been? Congratulations on the new baby, by the way.
Thank you very much. It's a new life experience, you know, having a baby in your mid-50s. But it's it's great to have a son, and so now I have a daughter and a son, so makes up for everything.
Continue the legacy of Gaspari, right?
Yeah,
for sure, man.
Keep my name going.
Yeah. So how you been, man? How's everything with Gaspari? I know the company's been going through some changes, right?
We've been through some changes, shifting more. What I've seen is that the market is so saturated that just so many companies, very competitive pricing. We still have presence in the international. But what we've done is we've started shifting, going towards a direct-to-consumer model with the website, and we've shown great success with, first of all, when you're selling direct-to-consumer, you're selling in smaller amounts, but you're selling in much larger profits. So, we're growing that model and still selling to the brick and mortar and retailers, but believe that we can market the brand better through a website as a direct-to-consumer to people and individuals that cause the demand that then go out to the retailers. So we've already done it with one product. We just launched Plasma Jet, which was a big product. We relaunched that product to come out, and it was a huge success. In the last couple of weeks, we sold thousands of units from the site, and that caused demands on the retail side, on these stores. So all in all, what it'll do for us is, with higher margins, it makes it easier to work a business.
There's been a lot of huge retailers going out of business recently. Some huge companies, right? They're shutting down, especially the ones that have obviously, actual store presence. Do you think GNC vitamin store will eventually go out of business?
It's a good
Because you can buy stuff online, because Amazon is pushing everybody out of the business pretty much.
They've lost a lot of what they used to have. When you're looking at a GNC or a vitamin shop, issues with them is, they're still trying to do an old model of trying to sell this retail price, to the consumer. Now people find it much more easier just to go online and order what they want. And, with social media, there's so many brands that have come up that you can go after individuals through target marketing, and you can build up your base. And I just think the stores are not getting it. So what's going to happen eventually, I'm not sure. You're seeing stores close down. I still think people want to touch and feel products. So there is something about a store where people can go in and just pick it up. But I'm also old school. I'm seeing younger people that rather go online, click, and it's at their house in a day or two.
It's simple.
Yeah.
What about, what I never understood?
And that's not happening only in the supplement industry. That's
it's every
we're talking about malls are closing down, shopping, we're closed.
Toys R Us is going out of business.
Toys R Us went out of business. Pier 1 Imports going out of business.
That's a big one recently.
Yeah, so it's not just the supplement industry that's being affected. Online sales, you go to get furniture, go to Wayfair. Why do I go to Pier 1? I can find what I want, order it, boom, it comes to my house. It's much easier.
It's easier. What also I never understood about GNC, you go to GNC store, right? And it's you have different brands, but then they push in their brand.
Yes.
So it's in a way competing with Gaspari, they're trying to push GNC, their products, which I never understood that. I understand why they would do it, but how are you supposed to compete against that?
Well, see, GNC would want to have the hot brands in their stores because they would have those hot brands in that store, and then they would basically bait and switch to get the consumer to come in and to buy their brand. So it's something that you want to be in GNC, because when I was in GNC was a good billboard, so to say, because you're in thousands of GNCs. But were we making high profits? No. So all it did was it validated the brand to be in a GNC, but you really weren't making money. And then GNC would be basically taking your brand and saying, well, if you like this, you'll love this. And that's one of their products. And that is starting to lose, with the consumers, because now, not only when you go online to buy products, people look at reviews. People understand now when they look at a product, they don't just go ahead and just click to buy a product because of popularity, being forced to buy it. Before they buy it, they look at the product, they read the reviews. So things like that also come into play why people then buy something. And you're not going to get that when you go into a GNC. What you're going to get is a salesman trying to sell you on a product that they're making a spiff.
Now, it's interesting when you started the company, it was like you, Muscle Tech, it was a couple of big companies like Labrada, right? But now there's like millions of companies, it seems like, right? Like
so
at least thousands of companies.
It's gotten out of hand. This is the reason why we had to shift to this direct-to-consumer model, because when you have so many companies, you're competing with so many companies, they're willing to make less. So that margin continues to erode and shrink and shrink and shrink because everyone's trying to get the same customer to buy their product. I still believe there's still a lot of room to sell, but following a direct-to-consumer, you'll have more profits and you can channel to one group that can still, grow your company. Per se, like it used to be a Muscle Tech or myself, I can be in every channel. I can be in bodybuilding.com, GNC, Vitamin Shop, selling online to all the brick and mortars, and still be one of the top brands. Now it's become where you have to shift and channel yourself to one market. And that market is where you would go after and focus on that. If you're trying to be a brand for all, you won't make it. You won't make it. And that's what we're finding out. And that's kind of why we started I looked into this and, like you said it earlier before the interviews, I grind. I'll figure a way.
I see you everywhere, man.
I'll grind and I'll make sure. I mean, one of the things also is still valid is relationships still mean something. So if you have customers that you have relationships with, they will support you. There are some stores that are flourishing in this direct-to-consumer, model. For example, there's a chain of stores in Vegas, Las Vegas Discount. They seem to be able to flourish in the market. They'll compete on online prices. They'll go, they'll sell this, we'll sell for this. They'll offer maybe certain things differently that you can't get from the online sales. So they're able to survive. So there are some companies learning to survive, but I think it's going to be a combination of brick and mortar and working online, kind of like what Whole Foods is doing.
Right.
Using
Amazon. Do you think the consumer today is like more savvy than it used to be when you started? They know more about the products and the ingredients and all that stuff?
It's funny. At first, I think the consumer got less and less knowledgeable, and they were more inclined by the hype. And that was the millennials. Now it's changing. I guess it's called the Z generation, that this newer, younger generation, 18 to 24, they're actually becoming more knowledgeable about products, reading about ingredients, reading about efficacy. So it has changed that people, that are buying stuff will read about a product. If it has a certain ingredient, does it have the efficacious ingredients that it's supposed to have to make it work, and it's not just spritzed in the product. They'll read reviews to see the effectiveness of the product. So yeah, the consumer is getting a little bit more savvy, because of what's out there to offer on the information.
You've been through with the company, you've been through a lot of ups and downs over the years, a lot of heights, a lot of lows. Do you regret anything for Gaspari Nutrition, anything that happened that you wish you could have changed or not?
When I went through the hardest time in my business, when I went into bankruptcy, I was going through not only litigations, through adversities that I had with other people that were fighting me, employees. The hardest part was also going through a divorce at the same time, and I just wish I had somebody that was there working with me while I was going through that time, because when you're going through both personal and business conflict, you almost go into a hole. And what happened was I just went into a foxhole and watched my world crumble. And I look back at it now, I said, well, I could have done this and this, but emotionally I just wasn't able to do that. And it was like thinking, if I had the right people working for me that I didn't have, they could have prevented that from happening and possibly not going through the hardships that I went through.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got to give it to you, man. You stood the test of time, and you continue going.
They say you can go through hardships for a certain amount of time, and if you just continue going through it, eventually it reverses.
Right.
And I do see doors open. I do see opportunities. I look at it now that I'm in my 50s, and I'm looking at a brand. I'm looking to do a brand called Gaspari Ageless. I want to do an anti-aging brand because now there's a lot of guys in their late 40s to 60s that want to stay young, you know, with testosterone boosting, you know, skin repair, joint repair, all these things. So I'm looking at that market to go into because I think it's a, you know, it's a good market. It's it's a growing market.
I was going to ask you about that. A few months ago, you made a post. You went to get a Botox.
Yes.
And you were very like open about it, and you were kind of like, you know, that's what I do. And I was like, wow, Rich is very open about that type. Because, you know, a lot of men wouldn't, I mean, women is fine, but like men would not admit that or even go public with that.
Yeah.
Were you okay with that?
Because I just don't, listen, I'm in front of the public. I want to look young. You know, I'm in my 50s, so of course I do Botox. And there's a lot of guys that do Botox that won't admit to it.
Of course.
That they should, but they don't. So I posted it, and the thing just went viral when I did that. Because they're like, you know, a lot of people were frowning upon it, you know, just age gracefully. But there's nothing wrong with, you know, trying to stay young. There's nothing wrong with trying to look young to the public. So yeah, I see nothing wrong with showing that, and a lot of men should actually be bold enough. And there's a lot of, I can mention a lot of guys in the industry that are Botoxing, but they won't admit that they're Botoxing. You know, so.
Would you recommend that to a guy to do that?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, you know, mild amounts. I mean, you can see my face still with plastic, but I've done it to just kind of take a little bit of the stress away from, you know, from your face, because you know, when you go through especially when you're running a business and you're very, you know, you're stressed, you seem to get more wrinkles. So you want to try to like loosen it up.
I think it's man has a stigma, right? Like not to talk about these things because it makes him look less manly. You know what I mean? Is that the perception you would think?
I think that's what it is. It's like it's not manly to admit that. Listen, I use all types of facial creams. You know, I use vitamin C. I use collagen. I do everything I can to try to defy the aging process. That's why I told you about doing a brand, because I believe in it. I believe that there are ways to defy aging. You're not going to beat it, but at least you can like keep yourself looking good for a longer period of time.
Let's talk about Olympia for a second. So it was announced recently that Olympia brand was sold. American Media Inc. sold it to a promoter named Jake Wood. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I did hear about Jake Wood, and I know a little bit about Jake Wood with the Wings of Strength. I think it's a good thing. I think under AMI, you know, David Pecker really was not a fan of bodybuilding. It was just a business move that he did in buying the magazine and having, you know, the Olympia. You have a guy who has passion for the sport. I hear he has a lot of money. I hope it's a good thing for the sport, because I think it has regressed in a way. When you went to the Olympia, like, I would never get a booth at the show because it was way smaller. They had to widen the aisles because there was less people attending it. So things like that show that, you know, that the show, that's the biggest show in bodybuilding, was actually, you know, down when it came to like going to the expo and the show itself.
It was also announced a couple of days ago that, you know, the magazine they fired all the staff. They stopped print, all the print is done completely. What do you think that means for bodybuilding in general? Do you think it's something's going to just completely be rebranded and change going in the future?
Well, what's happened is now information, instead of waiting for a magazine, it gets instant. It's instant now, like with what you guys do with Generation Iron. You know, you guys post it, it goes online immediately on social media. You can follow a bodybuilder's life every day, following them on Instagram or Facebook. So, you know, people still are out there seeing their bodybuilding, you know, they're fans of these different bodybuilders, so they're just seeing them in a different light. It's a different model. People get information through their phone. They don't get it through a magazine anymore. You know, I remember like talking to Joe Weider, and the one thing he said, this is before everything went to the phone. He goes, the magazines will never die because you can't take a computer into the bathroom, but now you can. You take your phone into the bathroom, and you know, magazines died, muscle magazines died, but so did newspapers. I mean, I read all my news, you know, from my phone. I never, like, I get up in the morning, I read my news from my phone. It's just another way. There's a different way of getting that information. You'll see it all, you know, and it's instant. When I competed, it was funny because people would wait for that magazine to see who won the show. and the pictures of those bodybuilders. I mean, the same day that that show's going on, there's stuff going out on social media that people see instantly. Who's the winner? What did they look like? What did they say? All these things have just shifted into this new world of social media.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the Olympia title still holds the value it once had, or do you think it's with that whole change, it's also starting to shift and decline as well?
Well, I believe the Olympia has lost some of its luster for the fact that we did have for I don't know how many years a David Pecker that really didn't sit there promoting it the way Joe Weider did. I knew Joe Weider. I don't know if you knew who Joe Weider, if you met Joe Weider. Joe Weider personally was passionate about the sport. When I was competing in bodybuilding, Joe Weider would call me on the phone. How are you doing? How's your prep for the Olympia? He really cared for the athletes, and he called every major athlete, what they were doing. And he wasn't some schmo. He was a true person who loved bodybuilding, and that passion conveyed in the success of what the Olympia did. When Joe, sold it to David Pecker, it lost its luster. Now, it's yet to see what, Jake Wood's going to do with it. I hope that he, I think he has a passion for it. I hope that he can change it and make it, build it back up. I think a big problem, and I talk about, I don't even know who a pro is. When I was a pro, there was 5 pros in the world. That was it. The 5 pro class winners of the Mr. Universe. There is now, I can't even tell you how many pros there are in bodybuilding. Every country gives a pro. So when I competed, you won the nationals. From the nationals, you went to the Mr. Universe. The Mr. Universe then had every person that won their country compete against each other. That winner became a pro. And there was 5 of them. Now there is 5 a minute. There's just pros upon pros. But so I see bodybuilders that are pros and I have no idea who they are. So it kind of diluted the whole pro status of bodybuilding. That's one point. And I understand it as a business sense. The more pros, there's more money that comes into the sport, but it's kind of diluted. I believe bodybuilding has kind of lost its soul because you don't have that. When I was competing, it was like me, Lee Haney, Lee Labrada, Mike Christian. You had these guys, and it was just like this competitiveness and camaraderie as well between all of us. I do see it a little bit in the bodybuilding sport because you have the new era of people now. You have Brandon Curry and William Bonac, and there's some great bodybuilders, and it's great to see even someone like a Brandon Curry from all the work he's done to come up and win the show. To have a dark horse like this Hadi Chopin not win the show, but come in third out of nowhere, which that hasn't happened in years. That happened when I when I came in the Olympia, my first year, 3rd place, and that was really good and caused a little bit of excitement. But I just think there's something missing that was in the sport before that it's just not there today. Are
you afraid that when people hear you say that, they're gonna just right away say, "Oh, Rich is just better. He's better. He's better than the generation."
Exactly, because they're gonna say I'm bitter. And I say when's the best era? I think bodybuilding, it didn't peak when we were much smaller. When you had Dorian Yates, he brought the size to another limit. But then where I felt bodybuilding peak is during the Ronnie Coleman era. Ronnie Coleman was big, he was shredded, he was symmetrical, he had crustaceans in his butt, he had everything that I don't see in today's bodybuilders. You do not see that, no disrespect. The conditioning is nowhere near it was, and I saw the interviews that both, Dorian gave and Ronnie Coleman.
I was gonna get into that.
Yeah, but anyways, there's a lot of reasons for that, and we could go into of why that's happening. That I think, but it's changed the sport a lot.
Now, when they went public with their opinions, Dorian and Ronnie Coleman, they basically, it kind of diminished the win of Brandon Curry a little bit, right? It kind of made it seem like they both said that in their time he wouldn't be in the top 6. He would not be able to be on a stage with them, like something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw you actually making some posts about that. You kind of agreeing with them. a little bit, right? I mean,
I agree. I agree with them.
I don't remember exactly what you said, but it's something like you also going into that direction, basically.
I do see like a Brandon Curry. Listen, he's got great symmetry, shape, great muscularity, but he doesn't have the separation and density that a Ronnie Coleman had. Maybe the same size. Like, I'm not going to say I was better in my day than Brandon Curry, because they're much bigger in that era compared to the late 80s, early 90s. But the mid-late 90s into the early 2000 was like a great field of bodybuilders between Kevin Lerone, Nazar El Sambadi, Flex Wheeler, Sean Ray, Ronnie Coleman. You could go on and on. Paul Dillette. You had such a deep field of great competitors that any one of them could be Mr. Olympia in today's standards. And I just think that it's lost a little bit. I think when we trained really hard. And I'm not saying guys today, there are some guys that train really hard. It's like every training session's a photo shoot, because they're using selfies to take pictures of themselves while they're training. When I was training for a show, it was balls to the wall focus. And I didn't have time to take pictures or anything, because I'm training for that. And when I trained, it's like, if you saw some of my old videos, it's like I trained like they were going to kill my whole family if I didn't train with the hardest I could, when I went, they got ready for a show. And that's how Ronnie Coleman trained, and that's how Dorian Yates trained, and that's how a lot of the other competitors trained. I just don't see some of those guys training like that. Another thing is, from Ronnie's era, which I think changes, he's the first to kind of use a guru. Now everybody uses a guru. And these gurus are dictating to these bodybuilders what to do and how to diet, what drugs to take, diuretics. And honestly, I saw Brandon Curry photo shoots 2 or 3 weeks out from the Olympia that I thought he looked better than he did on stage. And I just think something happened with, his guru or his trainer with diuretics or whatever, that it changed and made him just look differently, where he just had a film on him.
But still the best on stage at that evening, right? In your opinion, or no? Well, he had the best symmetry and shape. If you want to say who was in the best condition, was Hadi was the best condition, who came third. But he wasn't as big. He's a little bit, his symmetry, his shape is a little weird, compared to like Brandon. So, I mean, I would say because of that reason, Brandon's bigger, better symmetry, shape. That's why he won, But if you're looking at conditioning, to me, Hadi had the shape of what we're talking about, that, Dorian's talking about, that I'm talking about, that, Is conditioning should be the most important?
No, I don't think it's the most important, but it is something. I mean, it's a combination of shape, symmetry, conditioning, everything. So that full package has to go on stage. So if a guy has the genetics to have great shape, size, but he comes in soft, why should he be rewarded with first place? Another guy who maybe has less symmetry but is dense, hard, striated, very impressive to look at, that guy should win. But they're not doing that. I don't think they're rewarding guys for the conditioning as much as they should. Presentation as well. I believe posing is just out the door. Posing was a very important part of bodybuilding that has totally just been lost, because it's not scored, so people don't care. So these guys competing in shows are posing like it's a guest posing, not like it's a show that's choreographed to the music, to the routine, where they hit the shots perfectly to the song. When I did that, I practiced hours and hours a day in a posing room. So I did my hour and a half, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours of posing, and then I go back to the gym and pose. I train again for another hour. So posing was a big part of it, that today's bodybuilders. Another reason why you're not getting hard. If you're not posing hard, you're not going to get your body hard. That isometrics or that isotension causes the muscle to be harder, So they're not really, doing that as much.
Now, you just mentioned the gurus, right? I mean, gurus in bodybuilding today, every major athlete in bodybuilding has a guru, right?
Yes.
But they also been getting a lot of kind of like bad rap, a lot of criticism. Chad Nichols is a popular guru. He was accused of
I saw that.
straight up murdering his clients at some point.
That's what I saw.
Because he was giving them the wrong
I guess
advice.
Sean Ray kind of really said he.
So when you hear stuff like that, what is your take on that, on the gurus and Chad Nichols especially?
I don't know. I can't really speak about Chad Nichols. I know that he helped Ronnie Coleman. He helped some other bodybuilders. I know he didn't help Sean Ray because he said he didn't. But it's they're controlling your body. You could talk to guys like Dorian Yates, and he admitted that, like, I read what Rich Gaspari did. He kept everything in a log, and he kept a journal of everything he did. I started that, and then he read that, and he's like, I got to do what Rich did because Rich was always in condition. Who knows your body better than you? It seems like bodybuilders have become more lazy to just say, here, take care of my prep. I was doing it all. I was able to, I have to admit, the last week, you want somebody to kind of look at you to say whether you're full or whether you're flat. But really, it's you that's knowing your body better than anyone, not a guru. I mean, that's just my opinion.
But do you think if something happens to a bodybuilder health-wise, should a guru be blamed for it? Do they have responsibility when it comes to their clients?
It's up to you to listen to that guru. I mean, you're
still responsible.
Yeah, you're still responsible. If I'm going to tell you to take, 5 Lasix and you're like, should I do that? I'm going to question it. Some of these guys don't question it and they just take whatever the guru says. And, I'm not sure if, like, some of the people that have gotten sick from, like Flex Wheeler, having kidney issues, I heard was genetics. Tom Prince also had a genetic disorder. Now, maybe from the advice from Chad Nichols to take certain diuretics caused that genetic predisposition to come out, and that's why these guys now have issues with their kidneys or don't have kidneys. So there's something to say about that, because these guys are not doctors. These gurus are just...
That's what I'm saying. Chad Nichols is not a
doctors.
doctor. I mean, it's just... And none of them are... I mean, maybe some of them are doctors, but you know what I mean? How would they really know what to...
No, they don't know. And they're not... I don't know if they're telling these guys to go to the doctors to check their blood work.
I'm sure some do. I'm sure some...
Maybe the new ones or what's going on today. So I'm kind of not knowledgeable. I can't give my opinion about what they're saying to these guys because I don't know exact. But I do see the day of the show how these people don't look as good as they should. And I think a lot of it has to do with diuretics, that they're getting these guys to try to take in as much carbs as they can to, guys spill over for water, just take a diuretic to get rid of that water. So now you're full and then you're hard. But diuretics take out so much water out of the muscle itself that you end up not peaking like you should.
Mm-hmm. So, in your opinion, right? Every sport has like a Michael Jordan, right? A number one, the greatest of all time. So in bodybuilding, who do you think it is? Is it Ronnie or is it Lee Haney? Or is it somebody else? In your opinion?
I'm biased.
You got to pick one.
I'm biased. I mean, when it came to the look, I'd have to say Ronnie Coleman. But it comes to being like a champion, undefeated, it was Lee Haney. Lee Haney won 8 Olympias at a very young age.
That was your friend too?
Yeah, and he was
still your friend.
He's my good friend. He's a mentor, because when I moved to California, I was this cocky 20-year-old kid that moved there. Mm-hmm. He was already a pro. He saw how passionate and how hard I trained. And he asked me, would you like to be my training partner? And I was like, yeah, I want to be your training partner. And he really taught me how to train to be a bodybuilder, because mm-hmm. I'm a Jersey guy that trained for strength. I benched 525. I squatted over 700 pounds. Wow. I was very strong. And with him, it's like, you're not a powerlifter, you're a bodybuilder. You got to build muscle, build symmetry, build shape. Right. And he taught me that. And that's what made me become this bodybuilder that then competed against him to try to beat him. Lee Haney, won that Olympia, went on to win 8 Olympias. From that point, not losing his show. No disrespect to Ronnie, but Ronnie won the 8 Olympias, tried to come back, lose, try to come back, lose. And, he came back on the last shows not looking as good as he did. The last Olympia that Ronnie won, his 8th Olympia, was very controversial. I thought he looked much better years before. Where the last Olympia that Lee Haney won, mm-hmm. he won hands down. He beat Dorian Yates hands down in that show mm-hmm. to win that show.
So Lee Haney is the greatest.
To me, Lee Haney is the Michael Jordan of bodybuilding today.
Right.
Because he, like I said, he's the greatest, won the most Olympias. came out undefeated. You know, he's a gentleman in a way. Ronnie Coleman also, I have to say, the look that he was able to get that still is not today is just amazing. And I would say into the middle where he won both the Arnold and the Olympia the same year, I thought was his best shape. Now he wasn't as big, but that to me was perfect bodybuilding because he had cross striations, great symmetry, huge size. He had everything that bodybuilder would of course beat Lee Haney, but it was a different era, you know, at the time.
Of course, different era. Now, there's been a lot of craze over vegan and plant-based diets in recent years, right? Now, the Game Changers documentary came out, and Arnold was also promoting that lifestyle. When you saw this, I don't know if you saw the documentary, but when you heard about the documentary, when you saw it, what did you?
I talked about that as well.
I know you did. I want to ask.
Well, I watched the movie, and I just think it's all gimmickry. It's all something that this vegan market is making money on. There's nothing against. I'm not against using vegan diets, but for example, I want to say there is no way to get, say for example, omega-3. It's ALA, EPA, DHA. When you follow a vegan diet, you only get ALA, which then also can convert to DHA, because I'll get a vegan saying it converts to DHA and EPA, but not enough that you could get from fish. So
those are the vitamins you need?
It's the essential fatty acids. So omega-3 is an essential fatty acid that you cannot get from just vegan diet. You won't be able to get the proper doses of EPA and DHA from a vegan diet using omega-3 because you're only going to get ALA and very little of the other ones.
So they're lacking the vitamins?
They're lacking they're lacking those essential fats. They're not vitamins, but essential fats that you can't get. And you ever look at a vegan, they don't look as healthy, you know, like a real true vegetarian. That's my opinion. Do I think vegan diet is good to eat like vegan diet and mixture of, you know, meats and fishes? Yes. Man is an omnivore. Man was meant to eat vegetables, fish.
That's a debate. What was meant supposed? Because I hear a lot of vegans say that, you know, we were never supposed to be eating meat. We're supposed to be only eating vegetables, or
we were hunters and gatherers. If you want to go either want to go by the Bible, or you want to, you know, I made a point about talking about the Bible. If you don't believe in the Bible, you know, but God said in the Bible, you know, here's the Garden of Eden. Everything here that walks or is grown, you can eat. Or you look at history of hunters and gatherers and cavemen. Why were they there hunting with sticks, you know, killing woolly mammoths, and, you know, they were eating those animals. They weren't just picking, you know, grub off the ground. Man is a survivor, and why we have, first of all, because of our brains, but man also has the ability to eat anything. We can eat vegetables, we can eat meats, we can eat bugs, we can eat anything. Where if you look at a carnivore like a lion or a tiger, they only can survive on meat. Man can survive on anything. So we're meant to eat everything. Now, anything in excessive amounts, a lot of meats, is no good for you. Anything in excess is not good for you. So I always believe in a balanced diet.
I think the problem is, over the years, the food became so processed. So a lot of the meats we get in the stores, there's so much stuff in it that they became unhealthy. Like, I think that's what became a real problem.
If you're eating meat that's like grass-fed, healthy, you know, lack of hormones, you're right. So if you're eating meat off the shelf that you're getting, like, that has a lot of hormones in it because it's mass-produced, it's not as healthy. So, but if you're eating like grass-fed beef, you know, free-range chickens, it's healthier. Now, it's harder to
It's
eat
hard
that
to
way.
identify what's really, because the thing is, like, you know, I've seen this documentary and it was about just breaking down what's cage-free meat and, like, what does that really mean? Because what you're talking about, when they were hunting back in the day, they were hunting like just organic animals, like in the woods or whatever, right? Like,
that were eating everything.
Eating everything. Now it's like, it's mass-produced, like you said. So you don't know what
A chicken is, if a chicken's in a, you know, when you're talking about cage-free, that means a chicken can eat anything on the ground, worms, food. When you have a chicken that's just for mass production.
And it's stuck in this cage.
Stuck in a cage, and they feed it one food. The meat is really not as healthy. Same thing with beef. They do the same thing. They stick it in this little thing, and they just feed it. And, you know, this not even a grain, but this artificial food that they feed this thing, and then we eat that. So no, it's not healthy. So then there's a reason why now vegan diets are growing, because it is it is better. But then a lot of vegan foods are not even as healthy, because if you go and eat like this artificial burger from Burger
Beyond
King,
Meat, right? Beyond Meat.
Beyond Meat has fat in it. It's like tons of fat in it.
I heard about that. Yeah.
So it's still processed. So how healthy is that? So I feel there's nothing wrong with eating a pea and rice blend protein. By all means, have that, but also try to, have meats. Should you go totally vegan? That's where I kind of say, I don't know about that,
But I hear a lot of stories. People say, well, I quit eating meat and I feel much better. Like I feel just more energy, lighter. Do you think it's just because like it's a drastic switch and they feel like a change, or because what?
I think it's a drastic switch, but I think that, have they done it long enough that now they're starting to, because then I've seen people that have done vegan diets to say, I don't feel as good, I'm not as strong, I got lighter, but I don't feel as good.
A lot of vegans convert back to eating
That's what
meat,
I'm saying.
like after a year. That happens a lot.
Why do they convert? Because they don't feel as
right?
good, and they're lacking things in their diet that you get only from meats. I totally agree, and I'm going to get probably a lot of flack here saying, about vegan, because there's a lot, now this is a movement, it's a movement. And, but like I said, there's nothing wrong with it, I'm not against it, but I think, if you can eat healthy foods and nothing in excess, that's the problem. I just think anything in excess doesn't work. I'm not really, a carnivore diet. I don't believe in a carnivore diet. Keto diet, I don't believe in a keto diet, You can follow it for a short period of time, but I always believed in a balanced diet, getting a combination of vegetables, getting a combination of fruit. When I dieted for shows, I was eating fruit, I was eating vegetables, I was eating whole grains, and I was eating proteins from fish, turkey, meats,
I agree with you. What upsets you the most about the fitness industry today?
What upsets me?
The most, yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it's kind of diluted in having so many different categories that there is no identity to it anymore.
Competitively, you're talking about?
Yeah, competitively. I think it's lost its identity competitively. I think the bodybuilders and the fitness people, I was talking about this, they lost history of what bodybuilding was about. When I was competing, it was the 80s, 90s, I knew about bodybuilders in the 50s, I knew about Steve Reeves, I knew about all these different, Arnold. You look at a guy today and they only know the last 5 years. They know nothing about the past. There was a classic bodybuilder, I can't remember his name, but he was from Egypt. So I brought up a name, I said, wow, your hero must be Muhammad Makawe, and he goes, who's that? I never heard of him. And you know who he is. He came second in the Olympia. He was one of the greatest bodybuilders to come out of Egypt. Guy had no idea who he was. It's just because they only could go back, 2 or 3 years. Otherwise, they don't know you become irrelevant.
Interesting. That's how it is in music too, I think.
Is it like that?
I think it's like that everywhere, pretty much, in every industry.
I don't know. You still listen to music, and people still want to listen to Aerosmith, or people want to. Don't you think they kind of?
I think the younger generation just kind of,
They lost listening to the Beatles or listening to any of the older songs. It's only today's music that's relevant.
I know. So I want to ask you something. You've been in bodybuilding your whole life, right? There's a common, saying that politics exist in bodybuilding. In your opinion, the politics exist in bodybuilding when it comes to judging or placement or whatever?
I was a judge, and I never saw the politics per se, like them telling me who to vote for. I've never seen that, as a judge. And I was a judge for about 5-6 years in the IFBB. And, but I do see like favoritism. What happens is like if a guy is a favorite, or is known, he's kind of going to get favored on stage, even if he's a little off. So when a newcomer comes in, it's a lot of times it's hard for that judge to like say, okay, this is the guy to have to look at, but this guy looks really good, but it has to be this guy. I don't want to make a mistake, so I vote for this guy. And it was good to see someone like a Haney Chapon place higher, because he was like a dark horse. They did give him on his merits of being in condition and in shape. There is some politics in shows, but like I said, I've been in the top. I judged the Olympia, I judged the Arnold, and I swear I've never been told who to vote for, what to look for. It was always on me, but it was always like the first picks of who they're picking on the first and the second round it kind of already kind of sets who you should be voting for.
I see what you mean.
You know,
I see what you're saying. Now, another question I want to ask you about Arnold's comments. I think it was last year. He made a comment that he thinks competitive bodybuilding, should be tested for steroids. It should become a drug-free sport, basically going forward. He thinks it might help it grow to the next level, basically, become more popular, possibly. What do you think about that? Do you think there's a?
I mean, he wasn't natural when he won the Mr. Olympia. So
no, I understand that. But
I mean, you still want to see these freaks. You still want to see these bodybuilders that look like inhuman. So, I mean, I was in the show, and it was in 1990 that they had drug testing. It brought the sport down. We were much smaller, not as good, and they went right back to taking that away. So I think he's incorrect, because, I mean, I'm against, like, I think it's at another level on what they're taking. I have no clue of what these guys take today compared to what we took, but I think people still want to see these freaks on stage. So if you take it away totally and they're all natural, I don't think it's going to get much people going to these shows.
Mm-hmm. Because a lot of the natural organizations, they say natural, don't generate the same amount of interest from the.
Do you know any top natural guys? You can't even mention them.
I know a few because we're making a movie about them actually right now. So I know based on that.
I know one guy really good named Doug Miller. Really good guy, 20-inch arms, natural. But still, if you took him and you put him on stage, he'd be blown away.
But then some people, say even those guys can cheat also. They get away with, like just like any athletes.
Yeah, they have ways of whatever they're doing and however they cheat or whatever. I mean, can you ever take it away completely? I'm just hard to say that it's gonna happen in all sports. Everyone figures out a way, like they say, is football natural, even though they're drug tested? Is baseball natural? They still find ways of taking whatever they're taking, whether it's GH or whatever they're using to still be competitive.
Mm-hmm. Last thing I want to ask you, can you tell me more about the Arnold Amateur? I know you've been hosting that event for many years. And what's going to happen this year, and what kind of level of athletes are you trying to find to bring them to give them the pro cards, right? Because they get a pro card, right? For the
yes, they all get a pro card. Now, I've been sponsoring the Arnold Amateur for 12 years. Through my ups and downs of the company, when I was really doing, we're almost out of business, I was still sponsoring that show. So I'm proud to say I've been sponsoring that show for the past 12 years. There's over 700 competitors in that show from all over the world that are competing in that show. The person who wins, all the class winners get their pro card from that show. As a company, it's my way contributing to the sport, that we're helping these athletes, trying to make them, shine. I mean, that show is totally separate from the Arnold's Pro. So it's something that I do separately from the show. So if you go there, it's a separate event that's going on, although you'll see, Gaspari signs and all, but it's my way of contributing to the sport. I've been doing it, like I said, for 12 years. I got a good relationships with the Lormers. It's amazing still to see someone like Jim Lorm at 93, still, involved. I mean, I know it's more his son Bob now that's doing it, but it's still very amazing to see that, and they still have that passion, for the sport.
Are you hoping to discover maybe like a new international star for bodybuilding from a different country that can, you can say you gave a platform?
I definitely want to see like a new star. We're trying to also offer them, a Gaspari contract to get on products. So whoever that winner is, whether he wants it or not, has a chance to becoming a Gaspari athlete. So we offer that as well. Last year, I can't recall the guy. It was a really big heavyweight guy who won the show.
There's a guy from Uzbekistan, I believe. That was from last year.
Yeah, he was very impressive.
Yeah.
So they get to also compete in the Arnolds the following year.
Right. So he's gonna, Actually, that was 2 years ago. And he competed last year. Yeah.
So they get to compete in the show.
Yeah.
So it's a cool thing. We're there. It's like I said, it's like bodybuilding helped me where, I started when I was 13 years old, and now I'm still involved in bodybuilding. There's a lot of guys that, that competed in my era. You don't even know where they're at. they're gone. So I'm still, relevant in the sport, so to speak.
Thank you so much, Rich.
Hey.
Always a pleasure, man.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it, man.